Welcome into the Stack Shack podcast. My name is Nathaniel. I am joined, as always, with my good buddy Gabe. And today, we got a really exciting episode, right? We had another episode of Wheel of Time drop. And then we are recording this on December 1st. And so we thought we'd talk about some of our most anticipated TV shows and movies, things that you can, anticipate us talking about on the podcast here. Whether they're good or bad, we'll see. But that's going to be we're going to lay out some of our most anticipated TV shows and movies for the month of December. And in doing so, we'll give you a little idea of what you can expect here on the podcast. But let's first talk Wheel of Time, right? Wheel of Time was one of our most anticipated of all of 2021.
For sure.
Both me and Gabe were very excited about it. And we were pretty negative last week. Gabe, did episode 4 redeem anything for you? Did it solve any of the problems? Did it just get worse? What are your thoughts on episode 4?
It was a mixed bag for me.
Okay.
It had some of my favorite moments of the show so far, and some of my least favorite. So,
okay.
Kind of following in the vein of episode 3, actually.
Interesting.
Overall, I would say it's more positive than negative. But the negatives are still more of the this could be potentially really bad for me at least. So
yeah, okay,
yeah, I'll probably settle on a solid 7 for this episode out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah,
all right.
I think it was a step up from the last 3, at least in terms of how it's the direction it's going and some of the character moments. But again, there's still some of those things I'm just like, I don't know how you're gonna spin this, how it's gonna work.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that a lot in a certain section of the episode. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
What are your overall thoughts?
I really liked episode 4.
Okay.
Both of us were very mixed emotions with the first 3 episodes. We had some things that we did like, but overall, we were really concerned, and I really had some problems with it, especially the pacing, certain characters getting left out. And I said last week, I felt like I kept getting, blindsided or just feeling thrown off. As a book reader who is now watching the show, I kept going, oh, whoa, that's way different. Oh, whoa, that's way different. Oh, you changed that. Oh, this was my favorite part of the book, and you got rid of it. Or this is a character I really liked, and now he's just gone. Okay, I just kept feeling shocked through the first 3 episodes, and really had a tough time justifying a lot of the changes. And that's something I think we highlighted well last episode is we're fine with changes. Both of us are totally fine with changes. But there has to be a reason for it, and it just felt like a lot of them were pointless. Episode 4 here was the first time in the entire series so far, in all 4 episodes, episode 4 is the first time I have felt like I was watching Wheel of Time.
Okay.
I felt like I was actually watching Wheel of Time, the story. Now, there are some big changes. They continued some changes, but I felt like I was watching a cohesive story. I felt like the pacing problems that really, in my opinion, plagued the first 3 episodes. I felt like
Especially
episode 1 was
3.
super fast, and then episode 3 felt horribly slow, especially Perrin and Egwene. I felt like some of that pacing got figured out here in episode 4. And I thought it had some really big highlight scenes for me. So I would say episode 4, in my opinion, really got me back on the hype of I'm excited for this Friday. I'm excited to watch episode 5. After episode 3, I wasn't that excited to watch episode 4. I honestly probably wouldn't have watched it on release day, except for the fact that I knew I was going to want to talk about it on the podcast, right?
No.
I was just like, oh, okay, I'll get to it or whatever. But episode 4, in my opinion, got me back on the train of I'm excited to see where this goes. Now, I don't think all of the problems are behind us.
No, for
Um,
sure.
Perrin and Egwene's story is still a disaster in my opinion. It feels out of place. It feels slow. It feels boring. It has no emotional impact. They've gotten rid of aspects that give it emotional impact. Um, that's still a problem to me, but I think the rest of the stories really started to come into their own. So, Gabe, you seemed maybe a little more negative than I am. What we'll maybe start with the negative and we'll move into the positive of what we really liked. But what are some of the things that are really giving you pause and concern right now?
Okay, so I want to revise my previous statement a little bit or clarify. Uh, my 7 out of 10 is coming from someone who read the books. I think a lot of my problems with this episode are specifically the changes they made from the book, or the changes that could have implications for future
You
books.
there?
Ah, damn it. Ah, sorry, I totally missed that.
That's all right.
Okay, so I want to revise my previous statement, or at least clarify. My 7 out of
Okay.
10 is specifically for someone who has read all of the books. At least that's where I'm coming from with that one.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of my problems with this episode were specifically things that could imply future changes that would drastically change the story to me.
Okay.
Or at least are changes that I don't see the point of and harm the story and like without like with Shadar Logoth, right? We didn't like that change because we didn't see a reason for it with changing how the corruption looked, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't have a huge negative implication to me for future on in this story. It's just how something looks. I may not think it looks good, but oh well. Some of the
Yeah.
changes in this episode have huge repercussions further down the series, which scares me. So those ones are the
Interesting.
biggest negative ones. I'll get to that. The things, if I was to take those out, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to rate it on what we've seen so far in the show, not anything with the books. I'd probably put it
Yeah.
up a good 8.5.
Okay.
Um, my
Gotcha.
negatives on that sense are, like you said, I wasn't big on Egwene and Perrin's story. Um, I feel like the Tinkers lack a lot of the character they have.
Yeah,
Like they just feel kind of boring. Um,
they do.
they have less character than what they had in the books, in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
regardless of that, I felt like they just weren't that fun to see on the screen. Um,
Yeah.
the best moments were Perrin talking to the wife of the leader of the Tinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's about it. Everything else I could care less about in their
Yeah.
whole area. Um,
Yeah.
not to say any of the character like acting's. I just don't feel like there's much dialogue that was interesting. There's
Yeah.
no stakes going on there, in my opinion. Um,
Exactly.
and then I did not like the battle scene when they get ambushed at the cave, the Aes Sedai. Sorry, switching to the one of the other branches of the story. I thought
Oh, okay.
that was I could not tell what was going on for a lot of that scene. Like, oh, there's people attacking, and then it shot to the other characters, and I had or cut to the other characters, and I had no idea where the people were attacking from, what direction the enemy
Mm,
was, where the camp was in relation to all this. It just threw me off, and I didn't feel
yeah.
like it was done very well. Um,
Mm,
I think that was my two biggest problems outside of the changes to the story. Now, for
okay.
getting into those, um,
Yeah. Let's talk those for a
which I
minute.
think are a bit more pressing here. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed the Nynaeve or Nini, however you say her name in the show. It's gonna throw me off the whole time. Um,
Yep.
her interactions with Lan. I like the
Okay.
changes they made to include this area of the camp. Kind of gave us some more fleshing out of characters. I felt we got like some of the best character moments of the series so far in this episode.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which I because some of these characters have felt bland, not from the actors, but just from they haven't
No.
been given many opportunities in the show so far.
Yeah.
So I loved Nynaeve and Lan in this one. Uh, I liked Moraine's interactions with a lot of the other Aes Sedai. We're kind of seeing some of that intrigue going on. We're getting some of the
Yes.
politics, which is really big further down in the series. Um,
Definitely.
but then we get things where it's very much at the beginning. It's like, yeah, you really don't like the Red Aja. They're just not fun people. Like none of them have
Yeah.
any redeeming qualities so far that we've seen. They're
No,
just
they're definitely a
mean.
villain
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Which in the books is not very apparent in the first couple books at least. Like they're very
Uh,
borderline, but they're never like as it doesn't feel as blatant. This isn't a big issue to me.
no, this is more blatant for
Yeah,
sure.
it's more
Definitely.
blatant. Which if you're speeding things up was whatever. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
I think the person who's playing, uh, I can't even think of his name now.
Logain.
Logain, thank you. Um, love his character so far. I want to say
Yeah.
the opening of this episode is the best one of the series so far. I liked
So
that.
good.
That added so much character. You just got so much of this. Oh, these are the stakes going on. This is how powerful this guy is. This is how he can pull people to him. Awesome.
Yes.
I honestly would have taken this as the first episode over, or as the first opening of the show over what we had in episode 1. Rather have had this than
Yeah.
the stilling. I feel like it would have added more. Like it would have
Yeah.
accomplished the same things. Maybe
Yeah.
show like at the end you see like the Red Aja looking at where the city he was just attacking and be like, we got to capture this guy. Something like that. I
Yeah.
felt like it would have done better. But regardless, great shots.
Yep.
My problems come down to I really did not like how. You know, at the end we see Nynaeve use her powers to heal everyone.
Yeah.
They are beefing up the power of the like the abilities people who wield the power have. It feels like,
Yep.
because it in the books it takes a lot longer to heal someone, a lot more intensive, especially with grave wounds like that. And it would be one
Yeah.
person, not all of them. So I don't
Yeah.
like how everyone died and then Nynaeve is the only one who didn't get hit and will survive, and now she's going to heal everyone in a burst of magic. I did not like that at all.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Interesting.
feel like that's changing some of the stakes if you can be healed that quickly, that many of them all at once. Don't like that. But the thing that I'm more worried about is when, after she heals, we see Logain, like, almost cowering at her power, right? Like, she just did this. Like, he's, like, stunned, almost, in the episode,
Yeah.
right? Why? In the books, since there's two halves of the one power, there's the male half and the female half, right?
Yeah.
That's why one side's corrupted. They can't see each other's weaves.
True.
They're channeling any of that.
True.
He could not have seen her stuff. So if it's him reacting to what's going on, like, oh, she healed these people, wouldn't have made sense for him to let's attack while they're still stunned and, you know, getting out of this, disoriented.
Yeah.
But if he's cowering at her power, that has implications further down the line that I really don't like. Yeah. That is probably the biggest. That has a lot of further implications, a lot further than you've gotten. So
definitely, and we're trying to keep spoilers
Yeah.
to a minimum from
yes,
future events in the books.
right. So I'm not going to go into details, but for people who have read the books, you understand why this is a huge problem. So
Interesting.
maybe that was just how it was shot. Maybe they weren't trying for that meaning, but that's what I got out of it, which scares me.
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't have major. That was like that moment right there is the one that just scared me. Everything else I thought was pretty good.
That lost like 2 points for you. You know.
Yeah, a solid 2
off the
points because of
episode.
that.
Yeah.
Or I guess if we're going by my rankings, 1.5.
1.5. All right. Yeah.
The other
But I
good
mean,
stuff-
that's a big drop,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
it
for
just
one
changes a lot.
moment.
And
Interesting.
I some of the other character moments I liked. So just a couple positives. I really liked the Rand and Matt side of things this episode.
Yes.
I didn't have like last week's episode or episode 3 hit or miss at me for times.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot. Like we get to see Rand's character in that one scene where he talks the guy down. We get to kind of see Matt's slowly corrupting, but he's still charming Matt.
Yep.
And then we get to see how the corruption's affecting him. And that the fade scene, I like that.
Oh.
And if we're going by the books, how the reason Matt and Rand leave Tom is because he stays behind to fight off a fade for them. So
Yes.
I'm fine with this moment here. Like I thought it gave us a ton of decent like good moments throughout. It
Yeah.
worked. I don't need them to get to Whitebridge for that moment for me. So I thought this was great for
Yes.
their side of stuff.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's
So
my thoughts
I'm
so
gonna
far.
give a little bit of pushback on. I understand the concerns with Nynaeve, and I knew we were gonna end up discussing this, um, because that is probably the most potentially problematic scene. And as we've watched, like you said, Shadar Logoth, okay, they changed some little things, but that's just this one part of this first book. It's not changing major story beats or elements, okay? um but it did give us pause of like, hey, if you're willing to change that, what else are you willing to change,
Hmm.
right? And that's been something that I think fans of books that then come in and see a TV adaptation, every single episode, I feel like we're like, all right, if they're willing to change that, then what else would they change? Or if they do this, I could see how the natural conclusion of that would go here or here, and that would really change the story. Um, I I agree with you. I think they have definitely leveled up our powers here. Um, the one power seems even more powerful
Oh yeah.
than it is in the books, especially this early on. I know it gets much more powerful at the end. We obviously have a hint. If you read the first book, the prologue is actually the breaking of the world scene, where one man literally breaks the world and makes a giant mountain using the one power. So we know we can get to that level, right? Um, but
We're not there yet.
we're not there yet in the story. Um, and it's definitely not revealed that early on in the books, except for, like I said, the prologue that shows the breaking of the world. Um, and then there's some stories of people using the power to that extent, but again, nobody around them is really using the power to that extent. And then the other thing that's definitely highlighted is that if you start trying to bring too much of the one power
Yes.
and use too much of it, you'll burn yourself up.
Hmm?
And Moraine even warns her fellow Aes Sedai at one point of like, you're drawing too much. You need to settle down. You're gonna kill yourself. And so to have Nynaeve heal everybody, um, some of them of mortal wounds, that quickly definitely feels a little OP. Um, but and again, I haven't read the rest of the books, and I'll get to the Logain situation um in a moment. But what I would say is I was actually okay with that if we're trying to one speed up the process, okay? One speed up the process. Um Two, this is somewhat of an homage to how Moraine describes um the first touching of the one power. Now, obviously, in the book, it's not even close to this powerful. But Moraine explains the first touching as when she's trying to convince Nynaeve, who's denying that she uses the one power or that she can channel. Um, Moraine says, think back, at some point in your childhood, there was something you needed to have happen more than anything else in your life, and you just made it happen. Okay? And inexplicably it came true, right? That thing happened, or you got that thing that you absolutely felt like you needed. And so I felt like it was a slight nod to that, where Nynaeve needed to heal everyone at that moment. She really needed that to stay alive. I mean, Logain's gonna F him up.
Hmm.
Um so it is a leveling up of the power, and that can be concerning for sure. But I think, in my opinion, I think you can level up the power like that, show that in one scene. You don't really need to show it again to that extent, and I think it will still fit. And I think it's important for a show like this. They're trying to reach a broad audience. They're trying to make this not just a show for the fans of the book, and not just a show for fans of the genre, but for everyone. They're trying to make it more accessible. And some of the changes they've made, we've been excited about, and we'll talk about more in a moment here. I know we haven't talked much about Rand and Matt, but not needing to go to Whitebridge, all this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a like we need some sort of epic moment to get people excited. And so they chose to do it that way. And for that reason, I'm okay with the level of the power that she showed. As long as we scale everybody else up as well. Okay. And we've already shown Moraine healing Tam. That was instantaneous. So we've already shown some hints at really quick, easy healing. Healing doesn't seem to be a problem. Now, I think you bring up a valid point that I hadn't really considered, is it in some ways lowers the stakes, right, of the show, in that, well, it seems like One Eye Sedai could kind of just heal everybody at any time she wants to. So, are we really in that much danger from a wound? So, I could see that. I think as long as it is somewhat contained to this episode, but also just controlled on a grander scale, I think that one. I don't think that one scene is going to cause disaster from a power standpoint. Okay.
Okay.
That would be my opinion. I think it could. I do see what you're saying. It could. If we're just infinite power scaling and now we lose all stakes and it just gets fuzzy and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it's just a lot of hand waving, right? So I can see where it could get problematic. I don't think it's gotten problematic yet. We'll find out maybe Friday. If Friday just keeps power scaling like crazy, we might have a problem on our hands. But I'd like to, at least personally, I'm going to say, all right, that's fine for today, but just make sure you keep a little lid on that bottle moving forward, and we'll see.
Okay.
And, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, to address your bigger concern, unless you had something you wanted to say there.
Just one of your comment on one of your things.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. That was a nod, her doing it in an act of emotion was a nod to how she does it in the books, which I'm really glad, because that's a big part of her character arc in future books. So I liked that aspect of it.
Okay.
I still just feel like it was too much. If it had been Lan gets hit by the axe instead of everyone, and she heals him, then would have been perfect for me.
I think I would agree with that.
But yeah, if they ignore it going forward, they're like, okay, that was a fluke thing. That was her first instance of doing channeling, and it won't happen again without training. I'm fine with it. We're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you're right. It probably would have been just better all the way around if you just have Lan get his neck sliced off, and everybody else get blasted back, and they're staggering to get up, and she runs and freaks out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now to talk. Go ahead.
A slight nitpick on from a logistic standpoint, I guess, of this scene. In the books, it even says it in book 1. When you heal someone, you're healing them through the energy of their own body. So grievous wounds take a lot of their energy to heal them. And to channel, to just the act of channeling, it takes a lot of your own energy, right?
Definitely.
So she just healed all these mortal wounds on all these Aes Sedai, and now they have the energy to get up and still
Link And
yeah, Link, and that
still.
not still. Still is for women. Gentle, the
Gentle. That's right.
Logain. Like that's a nitpick there, but anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand that for sure. It's a bit nitpicky, but I think for me I just go, yeah, but we are in a fantasy TV show, so
yeah,
like
we can't
uh,
expect good stuff like
I
that.
can't I can't get too nitpicky with those kinds of things, but I do agree. Like, okay, let's think about this logically. Look at how tired Moraine was after fighting some Trollocs. Like, and Nynaeve's about to just
Well, and then half these Aes Sedai were out in the battle out there. The other
exactly.
ones who weren't were already holding him in the cell, like struggling with that.
Yeah, nobody's
Oh
at
well. Oh
100%
well.
going into this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Oh well.
They're all pretty
That's can
tired.
be glossed over for me, but anyway.
It is what it is. We can gloss over it. Now,
Yeah.
the um the being able to see it's seemingly being able to see the channeling.
Yes.
I have a fun little theory here.
Okay.
And maybe this is me being like wishful and like just denying what the um what they're doing because I don't want to believe that they actually allowed Logain to see her channel.
Okay.
Um but I firmly believe that he didn't see her channel. What
Okay.
I think they were doing is I think they were alluding to um Moraine and Logain's conversation about the dragon.
About how he's not the Dragon Reborn, basically.
How he's not the Dragon Reborn, and that when the Dragon Reborn comes, there's like that comment about it being there being a bright light. Their
Okay.
power would be, a bright light
Okay.
compared to his, dim flame or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think he saw her channel, but I think in her taking in that much of the one power, it put off that bright light. Okay.
I still
And
have
he even
problems with
makes the
that.
comment, and I know you're gonna have a problem with that. I know you're gonna have a huge problem with that. I have a counter, I think,
Okay.
sort of. Again, it might be wishful thinking, but I do have a slight counter. So that the dragon's power would be a bright light compared to his, or it's something along those lines. Okay, I think in her pulling in that much of the one power, there was some sort of glow there. Now, that in and of itself might even be enough to break some things later on. Even just the fact that she's glowing or whatever, using that much of the one power. I don't know that, so maybe I'm ignorant there. But Logain even makes the comment, right?
Hmm.
After that happens, he even makes that comment of, her coming with that bright light. And I think that's why he was somewhat cowering, because I think he had a moment of, "Ooh, that's a lot of power," or even not really that's a lot of power. It's more of a, "Ooh, that might be the real Dragon Reborn." And I know the Dragon Reborn is going to be way more powerful than everybody else. So I'm a little, a little concerned with my situation here. Um, that's my thought. Now, that brings up the point. If you've read book 1, you'll know that in the books, and we talked about this last week, the Dragon Reborn is male and can only be male in the books. Okay, and we talked about that being a potential problem moving forward, that they had mentioned that the Dragon Reborn could be a female. And that she grabs Egwene, and maybe Egwene's the Dragon Reborn. And now I think we're having this moment of, well, maybe Nynaeve's the Dragon Reborn. What I will say is, we do have confirmation from the writers and directors
Mm.
from the team that they did not change the identity of the Dragon Reborn.
Okay.
They are sticking with the book's identity of the Dragon Reborn. So those of you, because I know I was talking with even actually Gabe's little brother, and I were talking about Wheel of Time this week, and he was like, I just don't want him to change the Dragon Reborn. He thought that was a sign of like, we're just ditching who the Dragon Reborn is in the books and we're going with something else. At least on first watch. And so for those of you that may be concerned of that, of oh boy, they're really doing a lot in these first 4 episodes of kind of like, well, maybe it's Egwene, maybe it's Nynaeve, maybe it's Matt, and we'll talk about Matt later. Maybe it's Rand, maybe it's Perrin, right? We don't know. They're doing a lot of misdirection with who the Dragon Reborn is. In the books, there's not really much misdirection. It's pretty obvious from a reader's perspective early on who the Dragon Reborn is. But they've changed perspectives of who's like our main narrator at the beginning. They've changed a lot of things to do some misdirection with who the Dragon Reborn is. If you're worried as a book reader that they are going to change who that is, you don't need to worry about that. They're not going to. And so that is why I come to the spot of, okay, maybe there was some sort of light there that Logain is now like, whoa, maybe that's the Dragon Reborn. But that doesn't bring up as much concern for me because I know that they're that is he's wrong, right? I know he's wrong. I know he's going to be wrong. Um and therefore, my biggest concern with showing that power and then having it tied in with that moment of Moraine talking to Lan about, or not talking to Lan, talking to Logain about what the Dragon Reborn is going to be like, and then him commenting on Nynaeve being, or yeah, Nynaeve potentially being the Dragon Reborn. I know that he's wrong, and so that gives me a little more comfort in that scene. If we take it the way like I just described, of it, he didn't see her channel, he just saw some sort of glow or bright light, and
Well,
that's what shook him up a little bit.
a comment on that, because I
Yes, am I
completely
way
forgot
out of
this.
left field here?
No, you reminded me about something that I totally forgot of in the books. Um,
Ah,
without major spoilers, while
okay.
men cannot see, like men and women cannot see each other's weaves,
Mm-hmm.
women can see how much power a person is holding, and when they're
Mm.
if they have the ability to channel, um, to an extent,
Ah,
like specifically with women, with like it's harder for them to tell with men, but it can be done.
gotcha.
The men cannot see other men hold the one power, or if they can even use it, um,
Mm.
but they can get like this sense of menace about it. And then
Yeah.
when women channel around them, they get like goosebumps, and they
Uh-huh.
can kind of gauge a power level. I totally forgot about that.
Yes.
So it could have been him reaction to just, man, she's holding a ton of power right here. Um,
Uh-huh. And that's kind of what I got out of it. Um and maybe I got that because I'm in book 2 and they just kind of talked about that. um in book 2, they talked about the being able to see the weaves or not see the weaves and
yeah.
the goosebumps and the sensing of that. Um so, maybe that's a maybe that's why that's the interpretation I came with.
No, that
And
sounds right.
so,
I agree.
yeah. Okay.
I will
Does
take back some of
my
my negativity towards
Okay.
this episode then.
Let's go.
I still don't quite like the scene because I don't get why he just kind of cowers when he has the advantage
Yeah,
at that moment. But
that's true.
it that has less bad implications. So I will bump it up to a 9, not reading the books, and a
Mm-hmm.
and I'll probably go all the way up to an 8 with that for the episode with reading the books. I feel like that took
Okay.
away a lot of my
Very nice.
negativity. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, thank
Cool.
you for talking me out of it. I feel better now.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, buddy. Just talk you out of these things. And I think that's actually why I was so excited to do this show on the podcast, is because I'm like a baby in the book
But it's also
fandom, right?
fresher for you.
It is. It's really fresh for me. I'm literally reading book 2 right now. And so I think it brings a nice discussion, because there's things that I'm like, if I hadn't just read that in book 2, your whole point of like they can't see the weaves, I wouldn't have even known that,
Oh yeah, you were
except
not
that
that.
I did
Okay.
just read it. Um but and so I think that's a great thing that I was excited to discuss this, because you can bring a perspective that I don't have. I don't know what's going to happen later on. I don't know how this story resolves. I don't know how changes here could affect things later on. I can only see but as far as I've read. And so I think that's why I think this is a perfect setup for us to discuss this. Now, um, let's talk some positives, like some things we really loved. I'd love to start with the first scene. Now, I've heard some mixed reviews of the first scene.
Oh,
Personally,
okay.
I loved it.
I really liked it too.
You did too.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking about the Logain scene, right?
Yes,
The opening.
Logain. Yes,
Yes.
and how they displayed the corruption and that kind of thing.
Yes. I'm not quite sure how I feel about like I think it's cool of an effect with how they're displaying the
Mm-hmm.
corruption. Um,
Yeah.
I think if people can see that, then they like okay. In the books, it's never perfectly clear if how corrupt, like how insane someone's been going, right, from the one power. Um,
True. Uh huh.
I without going further, it's never like you can always tell people are acting off, but it's never that clear to me. Maybe that's just
Mm,
how how all channeling looks for men when they're channeling their half the one power, because that's the corruption going over it. I don't know. I think it's a cool effect.
yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful display of the corruption. Um, and I think it that the way they've fused that like black looking corruption inside of those weaves. Um, I think that's just for us as an audience. I don't
Mm,
I don't think that's something that other people are seeing. Obviously, we've talked about uh, in reality these characters can't see each other, just weaves.
yeah.
Um, and so that corruption I think is just for us. I think those voices or those figures that kind of like come out. I personally really liked that. Um, I thought that was a great way to show it, and like the voices and the heads moving around and stuff
I
like that.
liked the voices a lot. Loved
I
that
loved
aspect.
loved it. And I think that's again, I don't think other people can see that. I think that truly is just for us as an audience to see a visual representation.
Okay.
And that's why I think I really liked it. I really fell in love with that display of the corruption. I think it could make for some incredibly cinematic scenes when we get to parts where maybe we have a male channeler and a female channeler kind of going at it, and we've got like those crisp white lines coming through and then crisp black lines coming through. I think it
Oh,
just makes for a really cinematic experience.
yes,
Um,
I can agree with that.
and I also loved, and you mentioned this earlier, how they showed like Logain. It's not only that he can channel, but he's like a charismatic person, and he
Hmm.
draws people want to follow him.
Yes,
Um,
he has this
and I thought that was
aura
cool.
that people are
Hmm.
just like, oh, you could be the dragon. Oh, okay.
I really think you could. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which his character gets further down in the series, further along. His character is a big part of what's going on, and so seeing him
Mm,
being developed now and kind of getting this, oh yeah, he's and this is what someone with the one power can do, especially a man who's not bounded by the three oaths. Um,
yes.
really interesting. So I was excited about that.
Cool. Yeah. I agree. I love that we're getting, because you don't get any of Logain in book 1.
Oh,
And
well, you see him off in a cage.
yes, okay,
That's
fair
about
enough.
it.
You see him
And he
from a
makes eye
rooftop
contact with
in
Rand.
a city, and he makes an eye contact with Rand, but you have no dialogue from Logain, no perspective of
Oh,
Logain.
wow.
The closest you get to him is like 10 blocks away, looking from a wall down, and you can kind of barely see him. There's just a little, you only get Rand's perspective when he sees him, and he has just kind of like a, woo, this guy's like calm, cool, and collected, even though there's a bunch of Aes Sedai literally staring at him, holding him. And so I like the fact that we're getting more of Logain early on, because I think he's a compelling character, and I think it helps to, like we've talked so far, we got to speed this story up a little bit. Like
Yeah.
let's get some character development moving. We don't need to wait this long. So that I thought was an excellent scene. I thought every scene with Logain was super cool. We can discuss, as we just did, that final scene with Nynaeve, but other than that, I thought everything with Logain and everything with that aspect of the corruption was just spectacular.
I thought it was done really well. Another thing I thought, in terms of corruption, I like a lot. It really was gross, and I like kind of threw up a little bit from it when Matt threw up a little and it went back into his
Oh,
mouth.
yes.
Nasty, but I
Disgusting.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a departure from the books a bit. We don't see how the he's getting corrupt. Um,
Yeah.
but as long as it's kind of kept, like, no one's seen that so far, right? It's only been us as
Mm-hmm.
the audience. Um,
Correct.
and so all the other characters are still left guessing. Like we saw Rand and
Mm-hmm.
Tom guessing that, oh, he might be able to want to channel. Um,
Yeah.
I like that aspect. I like how we're getting to physically see what's kind of going on with Matt, because in the books we never get
Yes.
what's going on in his head. At least
Mm-hmm.
in the first book, we get POV from him later. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like that aspect to it. And I like how he was able to just like see the fade. I like that a lot. There's some
Oh,
nods to some things that we know about later on with that
yes.
gesture, and I liked that a lot.
Yes. I also really loved the way they displayed the corruption. And I'm gonna say it in some ways slightly redeemed my complaints with Shadar Logoth. um, because of the way it like crawled up the walls around like the trough in front of him,
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that before it all receded back in or whatever. Um, I thought that was so sick.
Well, I don't know if that
Uh,
redeems it for me, because they still could have done that with Mist. Like it
they
still
could
could
have
have worked. So,
They could have. You're
and I would have
right.
liked that
I'm
better. But
trying to make myself feel better. Okay, never mind. I hate it.
okay,
I'm still got a problem with it. I
uh,
still got a
I've changed
problem
your
with it,
mind too.
man.
It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, still
But
got a problem with that then.
still looks sick with how
But
they did it in the show.
it was cool. It still was a cool implementation.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the the other thing that I really loved is that scene with the fade,
Mm.
where he's like, "I see you." And it's just like the fade's face and the way it moves, and that I was like, oh, this is sick. That was sick. This is incredible. Like that was one of the first moments in this show that I've been like, oh hell yeah, this is
Let's
cool. Like
go.
I'm in. um I also love that we have Tom fighting the fade. Like that's
Yes.
just badass in every way possible. And like it was funny. Drew, I'm gonna pick on Drew again. I wonder if he's
My
probably
little
watching
bro.
this episode. So sorry, Drew. Gabe's little brother. Drew didn't remember that Tom fought the Fade. And so he was like, we were talking about it. He's like, I didn't really feel like Tom should have fought the Fade or lasted any amount of time. He should have just like would have just been killed instantly. And I'm like, whoa, hold on, Drew. In book 1, it's one of the most epic metal scenes in the whole book where this fade is coming up on them and is starting to get closer and closer, and Tom grabs his harp and flute, shoves it into Rand and Matt's hands, and says, "Run!" Pulls out two knives and charges the fate. He just runs at it,
He
just
goes for it.
screaming and yelling, "I'm gonna come get you!" And the only thing that you hear is screams. And then, Matt and Rand are running away, and you don't know what happens to
Yep.
Tom. And
Yep.
and at where I'm in the book, as far as I know, Tom is still dead. There's been some hints from characters that you meet later on that are like, it takes a lot to kill Tom Maryland. I wouldn't say he's dead until I see a body. So there's some comments there. It is still somewhat left ambiguous because we don't see him die in book one. But where I'm at, he's still dead. But it doesn't matter. It's super metal to go charge a fade
Oh yeah.
with your knives. Like, that's sick. And so I felt like the scene here of him fighting that fade, and at least seeming to like kind of stay alive for a second. We don't really see what happens. They run out. We don't really see what happens beyond that. But I think that was a very well executed scene. I also like that, right, the fade, it's heavily implied that the fade is the one that killed everybody, including the little girl. But Matt doesn't really know that. And I think Matt seeing the little girl and wondering if it was him who killed her, which the show isn't explicit that he didn't, but I'm of the opinion that it was the fade. But it doesn't really matter because Matt thinks he might have.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be huge for Matt's
and
development.
not just that Matt thinks he might have, but that Rand wasn't sure either.
Exactly. They're not sure. And this corruption inside of Matt from the dagger is gonna just get worse and worse. And we've got some interesting plays here with I think Matt's character development that really, I think, shined in this episode. I agree with you. Rand had felt maybe a little off. Matt has been a standout so far, I think. And I feel like those three, Matt, Rand, and Tom, really had a great scenes on screen in episode 4.
Great like character moments. Great what's not synergy? When the cast has good energy together. Like they're working well. What's it called?
We could say synergy, but
there's a different word for it.
You're right.
Oh, I thought that these
chemistry.
three were chemistry. There it is. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. My dad's a chemistry teacher. How did I not think that word? But yeah, I thought their chemistry in this episode was really good, and I was not just those three, but also I really like the chemistry that the actors for Lan and Nynaeve have. I thought those were working really well in this episode. Them around the campfire was cool. I liked that her. I was like, no, you're not getting away. I tracked you. You're not going to tell anyone otherwise.
Yep, and I also love that we get to see some of the camaraderie of the warders.
Yes,
like it's hinted at the book, but we never really get the feeling of it. And so I think that's something that's been really well done in the show. I also totally agree with Nynaeve and Lan. And also, we're starting to get, maybe there's some underlying feelings going on here with Nynaeve and Lan. And I think it's been much better executed in the TV show than in the book. In the book, it felt, in my opinion, really out of place, and didn't really make a lot of sense. It was just like, oh, okay, apparently Nynaeve kind of likes Lan for some reason. And Lan kind of likes her. It feels
even
kind
in the
forced.
books, like the book community, there's this kind of joke that, it's Stonewall Lan, because he just has, like, he has character, but it is such small moments throughout the series that people always joke about that. So I like how they're kind of bringing that to the forefront a bit more. That, oh yeah, he actually has some personality that Nynaeve could like, and they're kind of playing off that.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I also like, they aged down Lan a little bit.
Because he's in his, like, 50s in the books, or like late
Yeah, because
40s.
he has gray hair in the book. Like they say, he's got streaks of gray,
Yeah,
and that always also felt pretty weird. Because in the books they portray Nynaeve as very young as well, and so you're like, we've got because
yeah,
remember they aged up Nynaeve and Egwene and all of them. So imagine Nynaeve 3 years younger and Lan like 20 or 30 years older. That's
yeah.
starting to get a little weird here. Let's
Just a
be
little,
real.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it makes a little more sense in that regard. I think that was a good change as far as making that relationship a little more believable and executed, I think, at a higher level.
Yeah. I would like to go back to the Tom fighting the Fade for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I guess very minor spoilers for the series as a whole, not like any specific moment. So just like
Mm-hmm.
context. The reason they've been running from the Trollocs and Fades are not just because the Trollocs, but because Fades are just that powerful in the books. Like they can
Yes.
channel. They are some of the best swordsmen. Actually, I don't remember if they can channel or not. Hold up.
I don't think they can.
Yeah, I think I'm totally wrong with that. Maybe at least not all of them can. Anyway, they are like stronger,
The
faster. They can
Forsaken can,
appear
but
out
yeah.
of shadows.
Yeah, they
They
can like almost teleport
Yeah,
essentially.
yes. Very, very powerful. Like in the books, one of the titles that people get is Shade Slayer because it's so rare that anyone ever does that in battle, like one on one.
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
like that's just a cultural thing and where Land's from, like because they fight
Mm-hmm.
at the border all the time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tom's just like, "No, I got this," and just starts going like, "Oh no, I got this. I'm gonna fight off a couple of his blows. Strike back a little bit. You guys run." And that's like that he's doing that shows that, oh, this is not an ordinary Gleeman. He's a
No.
How is he good with knives like this? It's like that good with knives.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that added some more intrigue to me. I feel like if they
Mm-hmm.
had played up the Fade a little more early on, it might have been more interesting for me in the show. But for someone
Yeah.
who's read like that far into the books, I'm like, oh, I totally skimmed over this a little bit in the first book. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that
That's
a lot.
true. And in the book, you know, you find out more about the Fades and really like you see them in combat
Hmm.
later. I'm thinking at the beginning of book 2, there's one that kills a bunch of people, like
Oh yeah,
very good swordsmen,
yeah.
one on like 7 and he kills them all. So you're like, "Oh boy."
You're like,
But you don't really know that in book 1, they're kind of just these ominous creatures
yeah,
that
terrifying.
just keep popping up and you can never get away from them. Um, but I think, and I think the show, like you said, it would have been cool to just see. I would have loved to see a little more combat from the Fade before. Um, but the way they've done the character design on the Fade is so good so far
Hmm.
that I mean, they feel really powerful and intimidating. Um, just from their character design. And so I think that's enough so far. And yeah, to have Tom go like toe to toe at least for a few seconds. We don't know what happens later.
Yeah, we
The
don't know what's
Rand and
going
Matt
on.
run. We don't know if he survives. We don't know how he does in the next 10 seconds, but he survived a few seconds, which is more than most people can say against a Fade. So that's pretty
Yeah,
sick.
just
And the
made him
fact that
more
he's like,
interesting for
I
sure.
got this. I'm going for it.
Yeah,
Um,
I just met you guys like 2 days ago. I got this. Don't worry.
yeah, I got this. Don't
Sacrifice
worry.
myself.
I'm going for this. Um, and I feel like his character, yeah, I think Tom and Matt and Logain, I think are my 3 standout characters as far as like I like them almost even better in the TV show than in the book, right?
Yes.
Um,
Well,
like
that's another
Matt,
um
go ahead.
not huge spoilers, but in the books it takes like a good 3 books before Matt really starts getting character fleshed out. So the fact that
Mm,
we're getting it this early in this show, I don't know, season whatever, um
yeah,
I like that because he really kind of needs it in book 1. In book 1, like, oh, you're the lovable prankster, but that's about it. You picked up a dagger
yeah,
and now you don't do anything.
mm-hmm,
So I
true,
like that change a lot.
mm-hmm,
Actually, I think
yeah,
I wouldn't change it in the book because I don't like I don't want to change the author's work, but the fact
No.
that they're doing that for the show, I appreciate that. So
That's the perfect thing to change in an adaptation,
yes.
right? That's the perfect thing to change in the adaptation. Um, and I think that's been great.
Mhm.
Any other big standout moments for you in the show or in the
Um,
episode?
I thought the dream was interesting this episode.
Oh,
Because it's a lot. Okay, first off, I did not like how uh now I can't think of his name again. It's gonna
Rogaine.
Balzemon looked in the
Oh,
dream.
Balzamon.
Did not like that. Um, I
Oh,
liked him
okay.
as a shadowy figure that we saw in the first couple dreams better. Um, I thought he kind of just looked too CGI-ish for me. This one, like obviously he was
Hmm.
CGI in the other ones, but like giving him the skin, I don't know. Again, it's been a lot. They may describe him with pale, like the skin like that in the books. I can't remember. I just thought going from the shadow to that was like, not my favorite.
Well, so hmm.
But if you described him like that in the books, I'm okay with it. I just didn't think he looked the best. Um,
Interesting. See, I actually really like the
oh,
the character design for Balzamon.
okay.
Um, I don't think it's perfect. But I think it's close enough because they do talk. The big thing with Balzamon for me is his eyes and his mouth.
Yeah.
Which in the books are both like raging fires coming out. And when he gets angry, they like burn. And I think that part of the design, I think they did well. I could see the skin, yeah, maybe doesn't look quite right. Um, he's more of a cloaked figure, maybe in the um books, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I could kind of go either way. I think I need to see more before I pass
I don't.
too much judgment. I did really like him in the first couple of dreams.
Yes,
His
I enjoyed
character
him there.
design in there is kind of the shadow, and like you almost had to be like, "Where's Balsamon?" You know,
Oh,
he
there's
was
his
like in the
eyes.
window,
Yeah.
and then he was like over here. You can just kind of see glimpses of parts of him.
Hmm.
So that was cool. Um, my biggest concern with Balsamon right now is he's not talking, and he talks
Yes, he talks
so much,
a lot in the
and
first books.
just tons. And so I'm kind of like, uh, I need to hear him. I feel like he should be talking, but
Yeah.
they've chosen to not have him talk. And so far I don't think it's harmed the storyline. Um, from a like if you hadn't read the like me Balzamon is such an interesting character to me in the books. I love the way I've been listening as well on Audible, and the reader's Balzamon voices spot on. um
Thank you, Michael
he's
Kramer.
just
Shout out.
he's just yeah, Michael Kramer, well done, sir. I felt like he really brought Balzamon to life, and I thought Balzamon's dialogue was so important to telling the story of book one.
Yeah.
Now, they've somewhat replaced some of his need. Like Balzamon kind of just tells you what's going on a lot. And in doing some of the changes that we've talked about with adding some extra misdirections as far as who is the dragon, um, changing a little bit of how Tom interacts and comes in. Um, they've, in some ways, I think, eliminated some of the needs of having Balzamon
Okay.
talk. Because I think other characters have kind of handled the exposition that he typically is there for.
Okay.
Um, so I've been okay with that. I still want him to talk because I want to see his voice, but I don't even know if there's a voice actor cast for him yet. So maybe we're not getting it. Um, I don't know. Maybe somebody can let me in the comments down
Let me
below
quick look up.
if there has been a casting announcement for who's playing Balzamon or who's doing the voice for Balzamon. I don't know. Um, but yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of my thoughts.
um, yeah, I can agree with that. Um, I don't have a problem with the design itself, like the conceptual design. I just felt like it didn't
Okay.
look. Felt like the CGI wasn't done the best. Like needed a bit more
I
polish on it.
I would agree with that.
That
That I
was my
will
biggest
totally
complaint.
agree.
Um,
And that's a concern I've had with the whole show.
yeah,
Um,
I felt like this episode was a little bit better with that, except for that
Definitely,
instance.
except for that instance.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I guess we'll just see. I thought
Yeah.
the dream itself, other than that, was really interesting. Um,
Yes.
like I couldn't. Someone said, was that a tinker that Perrin was hitting with a hammer in the dream? I don't know.
Mm,
I didn't
I don't
pick up
know.
on that, but it could have been.
Could have been.
Still intriguing.
I didn't pick
What's
on it
going on?
either.
I'm interested. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in seeing how what's gonna happen with Perrin and Egwene's side of things. Even though I'm not fully in, like, I wasn't my. It was obviously my least favorite part of this episode. Um,
Yeah.
just story wise, what's going on. I'm interested in seeing
Hmm.
how they're going to go from there since they don't have Elias with them and all these other stuff. Like the
I
changes they've made have made so I
totally
don't under
agree.
I can't predict that side of things as well. That makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Perrin and Egwene right now are kind of just in this like lost limbo. I I don't
Yeah.
like, and they're one of my favorite parts of book one, mostly because Elias is awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I feel like
so
Perrin and Egwene had better some good character moments that in the book that we're not kind of
yes.
getting here the whole time.
Well, and this brings me to something I did want to talk about. Why does Perrin not have his axe with him?
Yeah. Well, cuz okay,
What?
that
Because that is
brought much
such
to
an
my attention.
important part of book one.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to bring that up too. Thank you for reminding me. The Tinker lady says something about like how's that axe feel on your hip or something like that, right? She
Yeah.
brings up something about the axe, and then I'm like, wait, he's got his axe, and so he doesn't have it on his character at
No,
all.
he
So
doesn't have an axe.
you're right. Where is his axe, and why was it brought up? Is he just gonna pull one out of nowhere later on? What's going to happen? I'm
I can't
very
stand it.
concerned.
Also, it just ruined the whole point. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of Perrin's wife because I hate it
The
when you
change.
invent a character just to kill her
Well,
instantly.
especially when
But
it's you're inventing a character to further someone else's character when you didn't need that. Ugh,
no,
that
we
pissed me
didn't.
off. Well,
And now, but here's my bigger problem. Your one argument for having her in there is so that he has an immediate, strong, like, back and forth with his axe.
yeah, yeah.
Like, that's the one reason you have. He's like, crap, I just, killed her with my axe, and he immediately hates the axe.
But I
And
have
that
to use the
that
axe to
allows
defend
you to
myself.
exactly, but I need to keep this axe with me because who knows when a Trollocs gonna pop out. Like, and that, so the reason you invent her and have that happen, the one reason you sort of have to try to explain is so that he immediately has this love-hate relationship with the axe.
Yeah. And now
And
it's
then
gone.
to have him not have an axe with him, now you've just made that entirely pointless. And where the hell is his axe? She doesn't mention that. How does the axe feel? I don't think it's she doesn't, I don't think, reference it being on him, but
But
she
she's
does make the reference to, like, with like it, and she mentions a few other tools and things, or swords and an axe, and that's when he's like, ooh. But if he doesn't have it's so much more powerful when he has the axe on his belt loop.
yeah.
And she, is talking about chopping down the tree. There's that great analogy in the book, which wasn't in the show, at least from my recollection, of Perrin's talking with the Tinker leader, and the Tinker guy is like, anytime a person commits violence, they harm themselves. And he uses the analogy of an axe. He's like, take your axe, for example. You take your axe out and you chop down a tree. Yes, the tree got chopped down, but that axe was dulled, right? In doing that. And so the axe harmed itself. Is kind of this analogy that's going on, and it's an interesting dialogue that I thought was really powerful in the first book, but is kind of missing its impact in this episode.
I fully agree. It it's just concerning. Something that
Hmm.
I should have picked up on earlier that he didn't have it, but I just thought this was kind of one of those, oh, we're just gonna pull it out of nowhere at the end. But then Rand's been having it, like his sword and his bow on him
His
for the most
sword's
part.
definitely still there. Yeah.
So another concern. But
Yep. Another concern.
I guess if he gets an axe, it's still kind of the, oh, I used an axe to kill my wife. There's problems.
It is,
But
but he should have the axe right now
yeah, yeah, fully
because
agree.
it makes the Tinker discussion a little have the right amount of impact, which it
Yeah,
doesn't right now. And we're both talking about how
because
it's like this
if I
is our
remember
least favorite
correctly,
part of the show.
in
Go ahead.
the books, doesn't like he makes a comment about like, well, you're fine with me carrying my weapon on me or something. Again, been a while. You're more
Yeah, there
fresh.
is a comment like that.
So like, which sparks more of the discussion,
Mm-hmm.
which was my favorite part of the episode, and we could have had different approaches to it, but oh well.
Mm-hmm. Oh well,
More to figure
it's
out to
not a
come.
huge issue, and we'll see how they do it later on. You know, they'll bring the axe in some way. They have to.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they removed Elias
Mm.
and the fact that they removed the axe, it's kind of made the whole reason of the Tinkers, like the whole compelling part of the Tinkers talking with Perrin, is to further this discussion between, you know, violence and protection.
Yep.
That is then furthered later on by Elias even more with the axe. In what would probably be next episode. But
Yeah.
since we've gotten rid of both of those things, now I feel like Perrin and Egwene are just kind of lost, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't really know what's happening.
Yeah. They haven't
Uh,
given either of them very much motivation at other than,
no.
let's meet, try to find our friends. They're gonna go to the White
Let's try to
Tower.
find our friends, which, you know, that's one thing, but that's like a motive enough. That's probably enough motivation for them to keep going. But there's not much character development going on here, which is what I was really looking forward to.
To be fair, we are getting some with Perrin, but I would say less than the books, and because we don't have um, Elias there, and it changes the dynamic a bit, so we're not getting as much Egwene character in this arc, or at least
That's
these
true.
couple episodes. So,
Mm-hmm.
while we're still getting some Perrin, it's less, and there's very little Egwene, which is a shame because I think her actress is like the actress who's portraying her is doing a
She's
phenomenal
doing a
job.
great job.
Like
Yeah, it's true.
she feels like Orain felt in the book to me. I don't know about
Yeah,
how she looks like. I don't care about what the actress looks like, or I never really had a picture of Egwene in my head, but she's
no,
capturing the vibe of Egwene.
the
So
vibe, the essence of the
kudos,
character, for sure,
yes. So
for
yeah,
sure.
I would say that's a pretty good summary of my thoughts on the show. So on this episode.
So, you know, bravo to everybody who made it this far. Let's transition here to our second kind of topic of today, which is our most anticipated shows and movies of December. Right, we're coming to the end of the year. You know, award season's coming up. We got a lot of stuff releasing, a lot of stuff around the Christmas holidays. And obviously we're still excited for there's new Wheel of Time episodes. There's some stuff that's come out here in late November, but we want to talk just stuff that's coming out in December. And maybe we could start with Gabe. What's maybe we'll start with TV shows since we've been talking TV shows. Let's just continue that pattern. What are you most looking forward to here in December?
Well, if we had more episodes of Arcane, I would have said Arcane. But sadly, we gotta wait a couple years.
Yeah.
um, Other than like for new shows coming out, I'm not, or even like just new seasons. I'm not gonna go with continuous seasons or anything like mid-season stuff, since we'll already be
Yeah,
covering that if we wanted to.
exactly.
I know we have two in common, but in looking it up beforehand, I've remembered one I've heard stuff about that I've been intrigued by. Have
Okay.
you heard of this new sci-fi like thriller on Netflix, Korean, called The Silent Sea?
No.
Okay, it's essentially these astronauts, a crew of astronauts are on an abandoned moon base, and they have to figure out what's going on with this stuff happening. and it looks really intriguing to me.
Okay, is it animated?
No, this is a live action 8-episode
Okay.
series. It's coming out on
Interesting. And it's in
Netflix.
Korean.
Yes, it's a K drama, or I guess maybe
It's a
not drama, just a
K-drama.
Korean show. I don't know if K
Yeah.
drama is a specific genre. I'm not very well into
Yeah.
that, but I have not watched a ton of Korean films or TV shows. I still have
Mm-hmm.
yet to watch uh, Parasite,
Mm.
um, but this one piqued my interest. Just the concept,
Interesting.
the location. I'm very intrigued. So I'm gonna check
Yeah.
it out this December 24th.
Yeah. That looks interesting. I had not seen that one at all. But that sounds definitely intriguing. We'll have to yeah, we'll have to see. I sometimes struggle with foreign language films.
I know you're not big on the
I
subtitles.
know, and I'm not the person that's going to be like, if it's not in English, I don't like it. Like, that's not the deal. For me, um, I find myself when I'm watching anything that's in a foreign language, I wish I knew the foreign language because I feel like I'm missing out on stuff.
I agree.
Um, I think it comes from how much I love dialogue. Like, dialogue is probably my favorite part of most pieces of content, and so I can definitely have mixed opinions sometimes on foreign films that are in another language, and I know that's kind of lame. I should probably just get better at reading subtitles. um so but this one sounds intriguing. We've got this kind of new wave of um what's kind of interesting is we've got all these other countries
hmm
that are kind of just making more interesting original content than America is. Like, the US has kind of gotten stuck in like Marvel and Star Wars and remakes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we are starting to have to go outside of the US, outside of English, in order to get original stories. Um, you know, I would say the Dutch are particularly good at this. They're killing it over there. And then Korea has been huge um, in multiple genres. Like, we could talk K-pop
Yeah,
too, but
there's a whole. I have a friend who has this whole theory about how uh, closely tied in recent years Korean culture has been to like Western culture, um, and
it's
how
very
it's
interesting.
slowly leaking into Western like it was a lot of us in Korean culture. Now it's a lot of Korean culture coming into American culture. Anyway,
It's a
it's
very
interesting to
interesting
me.
transition for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then we
So
have stuff
I think
like
this show seems
Parasite
interesting.
and Squid Game, and so
Yep.
like just a lot of these are coming out, or like Snowpiercer, not Snowpiercer.
Yep.
I'm not Snowpiercer wasn't in Korean, was it? No,
It wasn't in
I'm
Korean,
thinking
but
of
it was
Train to
by the
Busan.
Parasite director.
That's what I'm
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
of. Yeah, so a different train.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
Although Snowpiercer was done by the Parasite director, so
right. But wasn't it in
you were
English? It
close
wasn't
there.
a.
It was in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm intrigued
Yeah.
by this one. I'm looking forward to trying it out. It's Christmas Eve is when
This
it drops,
Christmas
so
Eve.
yeah,
Yeah. Might be a fun one to watch that
I
night.
will be very messed up on getting getting my wisdom teeth out. So this will be a fun thing to binge when I
Oh.
can't talk.
It's supposed to be kind of a brain one too. You're gonna be
Well, it's been a few.
having it.
I'm getting out the 21st, so I've got a few days to recover. But
Okay.
yeah,
You probably won't be too loopy.
no, I just won't be able to talk.
Yeah.
I'll be
You
sitting
just
there
might be a little
drooling.
swollen.
Anyway,
That's great. All right. Well, yeah, that looks interesting for me. And these are the two we have in common. I'll just drop them both, and we'll talk about
please
each of them.
hit us with them.
Witcher season 2
Hype,
and Book of Boba.
even more
So,
hype.
yeah, exactly. Hype and mega hype. Witcher season 2 is it's on both of our lists.
Mhm.
I know for me, I felt like Witcher season 1 started off rocky, got a little better, got pretty dang good at the end,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping we can continue that pretty dang good stuff for season 2. Um,
Yeah.
so I think
Definitely
that's
felt.
why I'm so excited about it, is because I left the season finale of season 1 going, okay, that show got good at the end,
Yeah.
and I want to see this
It
continue.
was such a. When I watched it, I loved episode 1. I was like, this is great content. And then we start episode 2 and 3. I'm like, oh, that's a
Ooh.
bit of a drop. And
Yep.
it kind of stayed there for the next couple episodes. And then, 5 was, oh, this is getting interesting because like all the plot lines are coming together a little bit. And
Yep.
then 6 or whatever, like the last 3 episodes, I was like, oh,
Hmm.
where's
Oh,
this going?
oh.
Okay. So yeah, I completely agree. If they continue with the upwards trend, I'm excited.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
if they make some of the fight scene choreography better, because I'm still gonna stay with they never got better past episode 1. Episode 1 was great,
Yeah.
and it was just downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Kind of fair.
and I'm just happy to see Henry Cavill as Geralt again. I think he's
Yeah.
such a great choice for that role.
Yep. He embodies that character so well.
No one
Um,
can make so much emotion out of just grunting. At least not
yeah,
that I've seen.
exactly. Yeah. It's Vin Diesel and Henry Cavill just grunting their way through movies. Um,
Don't bring up family.
there you go. All right, Book of Boba. That's definitely my most hyped. I heard somebody describe it. So I was already super hyped for Book of Boba,
Us Star
right?
Wars fans.
I'm huge Star Wars fan. Absolutely love Star Wars. We've talked a lot of Star Wars on the podcast. And we're going to be talking a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Book of Boba, definitely ever since they brought Boba Fett back in Mandalorian, and then that end credits where it says Boba Fett's gonna return in the Book of Boba, and you're like, oh hell yeah, this is freaking awesome. I love Boba Fett, and now we're getting a whole show of him. And then I heard a reporter describe it as Sopranos in space. And that made me fall in love with it even more.
That's all you needed.
Because if you know me, I love a good gangster or mob movie.
This is
And
true.
so if you're going to give me gangster and mob bosses in Star Wars, sign me up. I will sit there and watch it for hours. Like, that sounds perfect to me. So Book of Boba is so exciting to me as a show, and I hope it can continue this era of good Star Wars content coming to Disney Plus.
Yes. Fully agree. Do we have much info on this Book of Boba Fett other than it's Sopranos in space?
Not really. I mean, we
Okay.
have the teaser trailer, and they've been starting to drop like little tiny trailers that are like 10 seconds long. Um, but we don't really have a strong uh synopsis or feeling of what the show is going to be about, except that it's Boba kind of taken over Jabba's place in some regards. And so, yeah, gangster epic and Star Wars. Sign me up.
That's all you needed. That's you've said enough. I'm ready.
Yep, I'm in. Well, any movies on your list there, Gabe, that are coming out soon?
Well, there's not a ton this month for me personally, but
Okay.
there is one um,
Mm-hmm.
that I am going to. I need to see. At least
Mm-hmm.
that stood out to me.
Uh-huh.
The new Matrix movie.
Okay.
It is one of those where it could be god awful reviews. I still need to go see it for myself just so I can understand.
Interesting.
This is I'm just oh wow, I said that wrong. A big fan of like a cyberpunk dystopian world.
Mm-hmm.
Love that style of genre, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the first Matrix movie. And I haven't seen all of the third one, but I enjoyed the second one. So
Okay.
I'm going to have to see where this one goes, just because it's a genre I like that much, and I can't wait to see Keanu Reeves retake his role while playing Keanu Reeves. So, because that's the role he always plays, but he's so good
Uh-huh.
at it.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
I'm
Yeah,
intrigued.
Matrix was not really, as I was going through, um I'm just, I don't know. I
Just doesn't hit you for you.
loved the first Matrix movie. Um and so I thought 2 was okay, and then 3 I didn't even finish.
Oh, okay.
Um I need
Maybe
to
it
watch them again.
maybe it revives this franchise. Maybe it's that good.
Maybe it is. I just have this feeling, if you've looked at the directors and what they've done since that first Matrix, I feel like they've just continually had dumpster fire movies. Um, is that necessarily their fault? Maybe not. Um, but I just don't have good expectations for the movie. Um, and so I think the difference, right? You're like, even if it's terrible reviews, I got to see it for myself to
Mhm.
understand. For me, I think The Matrix is really going to be I'm going to wait and see how everybody reacts to it. Um, although we're probably going to cover it on the podcast, so I'll watch it anyways. Um, because you're right, it's right up our alley as far as content, and if I know you're excited about it, so we'll probably watch it regardless. But if I wasn't doing a podcast, if I wasn't preparing to watch it, if I didn't have friends that wanted to go, I don't think Matrix for me would be one that I would be like, I'm going, I don't care what any reviews say, I gotta see it for myself.
Okay.
um it's definitely one of those, like, I'm gonna wait for the reviews. I'm gonna wait to see how
Yeah.
it's accepted by the fan base. Do
How
they
is it
like it? If the fan base
received?
loves it, if everybody's excited about it, then I would go see it. But we'll have to wait and see. That's one, like you said, it could be terrible. It also could be really good though. I mean, they're bringing back good cast members. We've got a good setup here. Could be a really really awesome show. But we'll have to see.
Yeah. Only time will tell.
Yeah. For me, most anticipated, and maybe we'll just go one movie a piece here. There's lots of other stuff, things like Licorice Pizza, Journal for Jordan, Lost Daughter, West Side Story, Tragedy of Macbeth. But for me, everybody was taking notes on that, right? You all wrote those down to watch them.
I was typing. Don't
Um,
worry.
yeah. For me, Nightmare Alley. We got a Guillermo del Toro. We've got a neo noir, which is like my favorite genre ever. Uh, and we're pairing that with like my second favorite genre, which is psychological thriller. Oh, yeah, that's perfect for me.
You've
An
checked all the boxes.
absolute all-star cast. I mean, an amazing cast. We've got a great director who is known for being able to lock in great atmospheres, great creatures, and great a sense of atmosphere. We've got Kate Blanchett, William Defoe, Rooney Mara, Ron Perlman, and then Bradley Cooper starring in it. So I'm all in on Nightmare Alley. I'm gonna see it as soon as I possibly can. Um, and hopefully it'll be great. I think it has the makings to be great. Uh, might end up being terrible, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
I am definitely intrigued by it as well. So we're definitely watching that on here.
Perfect.
Let's do
So
it.
if you were taking notes, you can expect more Wheel of Time content. Uh, a review of Nightmare Alley, review of Matrix, lots of talking about The Witcher and Book of Boba, and then whatever the heck else we get to. Um, those are kind of our most anticipated things of this month. Hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. Maybe you got some ideas of things you're looking forward to this month. If we missed something, let us know in the comments. I want to hear what our fans and our listeners are looking forward to themselves. Maybe give us some ideas for content we haven't seen. I know. I mean, look back at what happened with Arcane. I don't think either of us would have put that on our top 2021
Was not
anticipated list, right?
ready for that. No.
Wasn't on the list. It was something I was like, I want to watch it. I think it'll be interesting. I like watching the Netflix original animated shows, and I think it fits well with content we want to talk about here. And it was right up my alley as far as storylines are concerned. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then I was like, whoa, okay, no, this is slow. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite TV shows ever. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any shows or movies in December that have a similar effect on us.
Fingers crossed. I'm happy for new content. Fingers crossed that there's some that does that for me, because I am ready for new content, ready to engage, to discuss it on the podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. You can catch it all here every week. If you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Share it with a friend. Boost our analytics, please. Thank you. And with that, we're gonna end today's episode. As always, catch us on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.